Hi there, my name's Jane Anderson and welcome to today's podcast. I'm super excited about introducing our very special guest today. But before I do, I thought I would share with you a few things that are kind of happening around the traps and some events that are coming up and how you can get more involved. So for those, if this is the first time you're listening, so my name's Jane Anderson. I am a strategic communications expert and I specialize in three specific areas. One is personal branding, the other one is content creation, and then the third one is all around building a tribe and how to build a community of people around your message and for you as a leader. So I specifically tend to work with not just experts in their field, but particularly with people who help experts in their field. So I spend a lot of my time working with marketing consultants, business managers, and helping All right, so here we are, and welcome to our very, very special episode today. As I said, I have a fantastic guest today, and I've been dying to get her onto the podcast and for her to share a bit of her story about how she's evolved into her practice into becoming one of our expert to influencer practitioners. So, as I said in the intro, Sally is one of our very special expert to influencer practitioners. She's based in Adelaide. And she's our very first practitioner. She's the most experienced practitioner using the methodology. So thrilled to have you online, Sally. Thanks so much. I know how busy you are, so thank you so much for joining us.
You're most welcome, Jane. It's my pleasure. Thank you, and welcome, and hello, everyone.
So, Sally, your background. So, I've obviously gone through it in the introduction, but it's always great to hear, from the person who's built their practice, because the people who are listening today are really people who are probably thinking about how to build their practice as either a marketing consultant, a marketing practitioner, even somebody who's implementing methodology. But walk us through, tell us about your practice. How did you sort of start? How long you've had it? Type of people you work with, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, certainly. So my background is predominantly business development and sales, and I've done that across a number of different industries, both as an employee and an employer at different times. And I had a love of knowledge and training, so found myself, like a lot of people, entrenched in the personal development industry, ended up being a crew member. And I really just loved that whole speaking, knowledge sharing, etc. So I found myself working with some of the great Australian and international speakers, just at the time helping them fill rooms, so putting bums on seats. And I seem to be quite good at that. I've been very, very good at networking networks. And I've discovered the LinkedIn tool very early on. Probably didn't know what I was quite doing, but found it and continued on. So I've always had that role of coach and teacher and mentor and helping people to grow. And through that, my community have ended up calling me the marketing problem solver, which has been nice. So that's where the practice sort of has evolved to. And now, since doing the training, obviously it's evolved into really specifically helping the speakers and the trainers be more visible, but spend more time at the front of the room instead of behind the computer.
Yes.
Do a lot more implementation, a lot more looking at their practice with fresh eyes and seeing where their leverage spots are and their maximisation spots are, and just helping them choreograph to get more leverage is something I really seem to hone in on and do very, very well.
Yeah, so because Sally and I met as a result of being in PSA, which was terrific. And I remember when I got to see Sally speak, you've come from a background of, like, obviously marketing and working with, you obviously know a lot of speakers, but one of the things that stood out to me that you obviously had a lot of experience in and understood was local area marketing. And so, sometimes it's being able to for an expert is to be able to make some of those transitions from, I'm a local coach, or if I'm wanting to elevate my brand, is sometimes they may have a little bit of understanding about how I market myself locally, but what you've done now is you've started to help people sort of go a little bit bigger, access is like more online, build your message. Would that be right? So what I love about what you do is you kind of got that remit of local right through to national, and if not international, if they really want to do that.
Yeah, very much so. So the local area marketing came out of franchising. So and that was for me was the ability to work with. I had 17 or varied between 17 in my local patch to 170 when it was the national patch. Was working with the different personalities, working with some fundamentals, but trying to get the fundamentals to work to the personalities. So it was, understanding the individual and their inner genius, and then how their patch works, so how the specifics of their particular local area ticked, which is often different across the board, as it is with our speakers and our coaches. Their audience is different, the way the states operate differently. those sorts of things. So it was understanding how they can elevate, as you said, their exposure in the local area market, then understand how they naturally operate. And coming in with fresh eyes, like I tend to see the opportunities that they can't see that are right in front of them, because they're so in their stuff or in their thing. So it's being able to leverage that, and that then helps provide the catalyst to that bigger reach that they're looking for.
Right. And Sally, so how is, you've brought in this expert to influence and methodology. As I said, you're the person who, one of our very earliest adopter, and you've taken it and run with it. So what made you, you've obviously had a lot of experience in marketing, and for those who are listening, are kind of, some I find are people who have gone, I don't necessarily, I feel like I haven't got as much digital skills, so I'm needing to build up my digital skills, or they might have certain areas of marketing that they've kind of been able to work on, and now they sort of want to expand. But in terms of your practice, like, you obviously had great experience, great clients. And so what was the evolution, and what made you start to look at, say, the expert to influence and methodology and how it applied to your practice?
Yeah, so for me, the big thing was I'd had success. I'd worked with some great clients. I've created some great results. In reality, I probably didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing, yeah, I was just absolutely just doing my thing. I was in that zone, which was great. But instinctively, I also knew that there was more to it. There was more to me. There was more to what I could do. And I think when we first met and I came along, you said to me, why are you here? And I said, because I've got gaps. I knew I had gaps, but I probably honestly really didn't even know what they were.
Yeah.
So with the expert to influencer fundamentals, it actually gave me the clear foundations of what was required to build a practice, whether that practice was for myself or for my clients. And then across that, for me, I've been able to marry where my inner genius sits in all of those areas, and then being able to systemize and then maximize in those areas. So for example, the network and search, it was all about LinkedIn and the strategy that you do for that. Well, I was all over that, because then I could actually build a system and a productization around that. And the same with the local area marketing and the visibility and how you set events up and all those sorts of things. So it not only filled my gaps, it leveraged my inner genius and my skills that I could then productize in a number of different ways, and then being able to expand in different ways and be a greater service and create results that were repeatable.
Right. So you already had some really good stuff. It was now sort of plugging this into sort of complementing, I suppose, into what you already had, but also now being able to see the marketing skills that you have and where it sits in the methodology. So you could kind of go, well, my expertise plays here, and they could still be able to make some choices around some other areas, and you could still guide them, but you didn't necessarily have to, implement all that stuff for them, because you've got a bit of a balance of advisory or mentoring, if you like, and coaching, as well as a little bit of something done for you if people are a bit stuck on things. Yeah.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, very much so. So it's that cross between coach and sort of agency or strategic agency, and that problem solving fits across the top. So when a client comes and they've got some clients have got no team and they're needing somebody to implement some stuff, or they're wanting to set up a team, or they're just wanting to tap into a team that's trained, that can get the stuff done for them. So within the fundamentals, I can look at the fundamentals and have a very clear conversation with them. This is why I love the diagnostic tool, is I can have a clear conversation around, well, this is what the diagnostics has said. What areas do you feel you're needing to work on right now for the type of growth you're needing? And then I can put something into play for them. So that's more of the strategy. And then other times it's just hey, can you set up XYZ for me, because I don't know how to do it and I don't want to know how to do it. I just want somebody to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just trying to keep people in that genius, and so that they don't have to worry. Is that energy and time is better off spent for them in spending more time unpacking their IP, spending the time on their knowledge, writing books, writing their blogs, go get that stuff moving. So what I love about what you've got, one is that your approach with clients is total care. So you are such an advocate for your clients, like you, and the beauty of that is, I think, as part of being part of the E2I community, is that I think that's something that comes up a lot with the practitioners that we've got, is particularly people like yourself that have their own practice, is we know that, one, they're going to be assessed properly. And if anything, sometimes I've assessed them and I've gone, well, here's the report, and to be able to refer to a practitioner like yourself, where they're going to get looked after, that they're going to be able to identify those gaps. Because when we're working with experts, we don't have, they don't have an endless pit of money, and equally neither do we. So, we're also as much the case study, aren't we, going through the E2I methodology as we are with working with our clients. So what I think is valuable, that's different, I don't know if you find this, but sometimes you can do a certification in something like a Myers-Briggs or a I don't know, leadership circle type. So you can do all these sort of different certifications, and sometimes you're understanding the methodology, or you're understanding the certification, but you're not actually applying it in your own practice all the time for yourself. So, but you are your own case study almost, being a practitioner, aren't you? So you're kind of walking your talk, really, when it comes to, not that you have to be perfect at all the 12 skills. It's more about that conscious choice, that you're making choices that are right for you. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that for me, being my own best case study and going through the certification with some smaller clients, and sort of really ramping my own business up and getting some of that stuff into play in a much more consistent manner, and then going, oh wow, well, look at that result, oh wow, okay, and then sort of seeing that, and then being able to have those stories to share with people, and then going, okay, if I had my time again, how would I do that different? What would I do to improve that? And that's where that, for me, clearly systems orientated and reverse engineering things to maximize it, basically to get back to the party. So that's been being my own best case study, and seeing the results of all of the fundamentals within that, used at different times in unison with other ones, dropping the ball with others, and sort of picking, then when you talk to a client, or when you look at the diagnostic and then talk to the client, you can almost go, okay, if I was going to have to only pick three, I'd go with that one, and that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for me, it's enabled me to adapt with very strong fundamentals that make a really big impact and difference to the client, but not have to create a cookie cutter model of this is what you must do.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So it creates more as opposed to limits me.
Yeah, I love that, because the modes of delivery, like you could be working with the business manager, or you could be working, and sometimes they've got a capability internally that they go, well, actually, my business manager's already got the database under control, and you go, awesome, keep going with that. I'm not going to waste my time, energy, effort. I'll just maybe have a quick look to make sure that what you've got is right, but let's not reinvent the wheel. You're already doing that really well. Let's look at the next lot of low-hanging fruit. And so you sort of, I guess what you're saying is, you can cherry pick the pieces out, because I don't know about you, Sally, as a marketer, I know for me, when I started my practice, which is, why the methodology was built, I just got sick of people saying, well, I don't know, you just got to try it. You just got to see what works. You just got to see what happens. And I was like, and for most of us, like, and experts, they're like, I can't look for this to fail. Like, I've put my heart and soul in this. I've left my job. We don't, we can't really afford to just try something and hope it works. You kind of need something that you can have, I guess, that conviction with, and confidence that as a practitioner exactly where to start with someone, depending on that result or the report that comes through. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And I think for me, that's why I've really loved it and stepped into it so well, having done so much personal development and doing all of the programs and been a lifelong learner. You know, there's a point where you can learn. You've done enough learning, but you need to implement, but you've still got gaps.
Yes.
So for me, and that's a horrid cycle to get on. I've been on that. You waste an awful lot of time and probably money, certainly money in my case, and you're not getting anywhere. And it's sort of like, I need this to work, but you're not sure why it's not working, and it's just because you're on this treadmill. Whereas with the 12 key areas, it's sort of like, this is it, this is the blueprint. Now let's just choreograph what's relevant for you right now. And with the difference of, as you've sort of said, with me working with either the speaker or the business manager or overseeing the VA, the common question is, okay, what does it need to look like, or what does it need to be easy for you? You as in the business manager, great. What does it need to look like or be for you as a speaker, and how do you need to make that work together? That's where I can then come in and go, okay, well, what we need to do, if you're already doing that bit, as you said, or I can come in and choreograph over the top of this, and that'll help things move along.
Yeah, and that's what I love about your approach, is that you always have such advocacy for people. Like, you're always looking at, and I think for those who are thinking about being a practitioner, is that it does take that level of advocacy. Is you really are, you can't take for granted that these people are in a vulnerable position, and that they've put their heart and soul into their business, and they're taking a lot of risk and carrying a lot of risk to make it work. So it really does take that level of care and advocacy to really think on their behalf, because they quite often don't necessarily have the right questions to ask or know what they're looking for to be able to contribute to the level that you do. So I just love that and it takes that mindset, is that you've got to, this program is not about me. This is about how it will work for you, what will get you a return, even sometimes what they can afford to spend. So you go, okay, well, based on what you're spending, here's where your low-hanging fruit are. Here's where we'll start, get the results there, and then we'll worry about the next bit after that.
Yeah, organic forward movement.
Oh, I love that. I love it. It's spot on. I love that. So, Sally, in terms of, one of the questions I get asked a lot is how long it takes to do. And I say to people, well, you could take a week to do it if you really want to get in and do the E2I certification, and you've got a lot of things at your fingertips, or some could take a year. It's really pretty self-paced. But in terms of what you found, how long did it take you? I mean, you're the kind of person who likes to get something finished and get it done. So and for a lot of us that are marketers are like that. So how long did it take you? What did you find through the process of being able to source? Like you said, you were a case study on some things, clients were case studies, like just for you to pull the portfolio together.
I remember starting it going, I'm going to get this thing nailed really quickly, and then went, okay, I need to do a little bit more in depth there. That's a little bit too superficial. So for me, it really it took me the 12 months.
Yeah.
It took me using it and understanding it, and also systemizing it slightly along the way.
Yes.
I really thought I was going to get it nailed in 3 months. Because I thought I could pull stuff together. I'm glad I didn't, because I'm glad I took the time to actually be the best case study for myself, for self-confidence, for clarity, and then being able to understand the processes. If I was to do anything different, again, I'd probably now look back, I'd probably systemize more, or in that I'd work out what I was doing so I could go, okay, and just put some of that stuff in place sooner, as opposed to having to go back and doing rework. I'm not a fan of my own rework. I'd like to try and do them along the way. In saying that, though, I probably couldn't have done that until I got to the end and looked back.
Yeah.
As Steve Jobs says, you can't see it retrospectively, look back, then you can see.
Yes.
But for me, it was a great process to actually pull it all together. to then see it all and then really see the journey of evolution and really see where the trigger points were in my own practice and for those that I'd done little parts of the portfolio with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, because I think one of the things that I've been mindful of when building it was to set practitioners up for success, that they, I think what I find different with some methodologies is that as a practitioner, you can't start using the tools until you have the stamp. And that always frustrated me, and because they're like, well, how am I going to learn? And so did you find, because I know something that for yourself that, and a lot of the other practitioners, is what we do a bit different is to say, well, you know what, if you, as soon as you sign up, you've got access to everything, is just start using it. You might not have your stamp straight away, but just start using it so that you can get the practice and you can start working on it with clients, because, you know, then you're not waiting 12 months to access all the materials. You can just start working with it, sign clients up, just start, because a lot of those, like a practice like yours, is you already had some really great relationships and started working with those people, and you it's sort of more like, did you find that that, because that was sort of increased, like you said, your confidence and your conviction around using it anyway, because you were able to just start applying it with the clients you already had. You didn't have to wait. Yeah. And particularly when you're in a practice on your own, even for like yourself and myself, is that we've got the same challenges, is, you know, trying to throw a certification on top of what you're doing. If you've got to do all this work before you can even get the stamp, that just, it doesn't help you to keep growing your practice as you're learning. Did you find that was useful, or did you feel like you needed the stamp to start working with it, or did you find that you were able to just start using some of the tools straight away?
No, certainly being able to use the tools going through the curriculum, starting to be able to use the tools like the diagnostic, understanding what that was really saying, working with some clients on a couple of areas based on what it was saying, and then going, oh, actually, if we've done this a little bit different, or now that I've seen forward movement with that element for you, based on what I'm seeing you do, let's just do it like this. So being able to learn and tweak to see where the improvements were was absolutely gold for me. And I couldn't have done that had I had to wait for the certification. I would have maybe even missed those learning opportunities had I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sally, what's been the biggest shift for you in your practice since you've been using the methodology? Like, in terms of the type of clients, you don't have to go into revenue, but even like as your revenue increased, like, you know, what have you noticed? And then for you personally, just in terms of you for your own development.
Yeah, so very much from a business or practice perspective, it's absolutely the productization. Prior to doing the certification, I was just good at lots of different stuff, but I couldn't label it, and I couldn't necessarily explain it. Whereas overlaid over the fundamentals, I've got very specific things in the 4 categories that I do within my own zone of that inner genius. So the ability to be able to productize that and go, right, well, I'm really good, as an example, if I use the LinkedIn again, I'm really good on, I understand LinkedIn, and I've been using LinkedIn for lead generation and networking. In my word, it was networking networks. Now I actually know it's lead generation, and that's actually an art form, and that I do it in a very, very humanized, very connected way. And that's how I then tie digital into local area marketing.
Yes.
So that became a very strong product offering potential at the time. And the other one was that I can see the repurpose opportunities of people that have got lots of content that don't know what to do with it, and they want some visibility, but they've just got stuff, lots and lots of content, is working out, okay, well, how do I turn... We've talked about, you know, turning one piece of content into lots of different things. Well, I can see that 1 into 15 really easy, and I can direct or create that content so people have got a library of assets of different things that they can then use. And then with that systemization, I can go, right, based on your big keywords and your big key folders, here's some content that we can repurpose. So it's building some of those assets. Would I have known that before doing the program? Absolutely not. I would have had no clue. So that's just sort of two really quick examples of how I can sort of branch into some productization and specialization for specific things when it comes to marketing my own business. That I can say, hey, I do this thing really, really well. I still do the whole lot, but you know, there's people that'll come in for different reasons.
Yes. And then in terms of your growth, so it sounds like just in terms of like, you seeing opportunities, not just for other people, but seeing opportunities for yourself, leveraging your expertise that you already had. So being able to, like you said, productize that and go, okay, now I can see that people find things easier to buy when they're productized. And I love that you talked about, you've got 4 key areas of, you've got identified even that out of your practice. So you like, instead of fixing everything, you know, sometimes that's the challenge, that we're so good at what we do, we end up, and when you're known as just ring Sally, she'll fix it, just ring Sally, you know, it's like that, take it to a busy person because it'll get done. Is, you know, Sally's the kind of person, she'll find a way, even if she doesn't know how to do it, she'll work it out. And you know, you have such high trust factor with your clients, which is terrific. And then in terms of your practice growth overall, in terms of like revenue, has it, would you say you've had an increase in your revenue? Like what does that look like? Does it, you've obviously starting now to create an agency as well. You've got team coming on. What is all, you know, share what you're open to sharing. Yeah. What does that all mean for you?
So for me, it was in the very beginning, it was me an hourly rate. So I replaced, just effectively created another job. So with that productization, and for me personally, the clarity of what it was that I actually did especially well, and then being able to being easy to buy, and seeing the confidence and the clarity then in the customer, it just really, really helped me be confident in my own abilities, and therefore I was able to build the business. So yes, the business has grown. It's gone from me. Last year we had between 3 and 7 on, depending on what we were doing with staff. And now I'm just changing the models, the agency side of the business a little bit more. So I've still got the coaching side and the strategy side. And the agency side is more of that implementation on very specific areas. Coming back to the 4, I've got have the stream. So just building that out at the moment. So that's sort of the focus. Was focus for later in the year, but it's actually ended up speeding up because of some of the inquiries that are coming in. And again, that's for me as a marketer, that's going, oh, that was what I was wanting, speed to market. Okay, well now I need to do this because I can be of greatest service right now in this area to people because I get it.
Yeah.
And I understand it enough to be able to then put a team in place because I've done the work, and I've understand it, and I've systemized it. So then that just seems to be the next automatic step for me, is being able to duplicate and clone myself.
Yes, and exactly, because you know and this is what creates such empathy for our clients, is that we go, okay, well I get it, I'm going through it myself, so you know we're on that journey with them quite often. So that's terrific. What has it also meant for you, Sally, in terms of, like, you're in a community obviously, and you're super busy, so we don't always necessarily see all the practitioners' faces pop up all the time, but having the, I guess, the community of experts, community of practitioners, you know, in terms of the long-term support, one of the things that I get asked a little bit about is, okay, so do I do this and then I don't hear from anybody ever again? Is it, like, some people go, what if I have a question? What if I don't know how to do something in particular? I don't know how to talk to a certain client, or, you know, so what's been your experience in terms of, like, if you're stuck? Some people do ask me about that. What have you found with that?
Community is awesome. One of the notes that I did write down for myself was tap into the community more. So that when it comes to, was there any advice I'd give anybody? Yes, tap into the community more. I wish I'd done more of that. Yes. The community is super, super duper supportive. No question's a silly question because we've all asked them, and that's where the greatest lessons come from.
Yes.
And yet obviously you're in there with the information that you're tapping in. My coaching clients that have tapped into the program, that's the very first thing that I say, tap into this, because Jane's got super information in there. Ask questions, share, if buts and examples of things you're trying to determine what you should or shouldn't do, because everyone's gives feedback. Which is constructive and also based on the same fundamentals that you're working on. So they understand the journey that you're on. So it's not just opinion, it's actually well-founded, well-based opinion on this, traveling that same journey. So I think that's been the real key element of what I've been experiencing and what I now share with my community as well in relation to your community.
Yeah, look, that was one of the goals out of the program, was to really help practitioners not feel as alone, because, the other challenge is that everything changes so fast when you're in the marketing game. That when some of it's digital, so algorithms changed, and, all these things just go so fast that what you're actually needing to do is to tap into people who are using parts of the methodology in certain ways that may or may not be like the type, like you could have one client that you go, I haven't seen this before, and so you're like, now what do I do? So but to be able to go to someone else who's perhaps, I think it might be an area of it that you go, well, I can do the basics in that, but you're not relied on, to know all 12 skills inside out, back to front, because it's likely that somebody in the group has probably implemented some of that to a certain extent, or maybe that's the specific area they've gone to town on, because maybe their practice is doing over $1 million a year, so they've had more practice at that. Or maybe like a podcast, so for example, like someone like Oscar Trimboli, who's in the group, who's in the top, is in the top 10 Australian podcasts in the country. He's just interviewed James Clear. So someone like that, you can go, if someone's thinking about doing a podcast, you don't have to be a guru in podcasting. I think Oscar even put up in the group a couple of weeks or last week, the ultimate podcasting guide that he came across and that he follows. And so I guess and this is often a question that sometimes comes up with people that reach out to me. So they will say, I feel like they sometimes have come out of corporate, or they've come out of, like yourself, like it might be local area marketing or other certain areas and aspects of marketing. They go, I just feel like I don't have the digital skills, but I don't know if I can learn Facebook ads. I don't know if I can learn SEO. I don't know if I can learn, to do all these things. Have you felt like that you've been under pressure to learn all those things? But in your case, is it sort of sitting a bit more strategic and high level and go, okay, here's what you need to do? Or what have you found?
So very much from the community perspective, is absolutely is a brains trust. It's a great place to be able to ask questions. From my perspective, I don't want to learn Facebook ads, and I don't want to do the SEO and all those sorts of things. I couldn't think of anything worse. But what I do know is, if I need a local expert within our community, I can probably find one. If I need, from a networking, the networks and the way I work with my agency, I know I can find somebody that's got the relevant skills. Yeah. So that's where, from that strict strategy point of view, I know what needs to be done, and I know roughly what the tool is. But I'm very clear on how that needs to look, feel, and be for the essence of that speaker. I just need somebody that can do the implementation under instruction.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Because you're the translator, right? Because you're going, here are the questions. So it's not necessarily you have to get bogged down into doing it. But again, it's a big part's advocacy is that you're actually, if the client needs, and it's also about sustainability too, isn't it? Like you're wanting your client to have this so it's sustainable in their practice in the long term. So if somebody comes in to do SEO, and it's like, okay, well, you're better off to be paying this person $100 for for them to do the SEO, $150 to do the SEO on a landing page or whatever. So you go, not necessarily my expertise and not worth the time your expertise, but here's the purpose behind it. So as opposed to the expert trying to go, I don't know why I'm doing SEO again, and I don't know what I need it to do. And those keywords, I don't know, those keywords don't really match what I sell. And then next thing, the SEO person's going, oh, well, what are you trying to sell? And these keywords, you know, but maybe you should use these keywords. So you've got this confusion that goes on. And so have you found that you've been able to sort of, I guess, stay in that translation space because of the advocacy that you're working for that client? So it's just knowing the right questions to ask on their behalf, really, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And that's probably where the greatest clarity, and that's been a great insight just from our conversation today, is understanding, okay, well, I need it to do this.
Yes.
I need to ask the customer or the client, what does that need to look like for them based on who they're serving?
Yeah.
Right, great. Now I understand that. Now I need to find the right person that has the synergy and the adaptability to work from that space, because again, it's about energy matching and all those sorts of things. I could, you know, you can find 3 people that can do the job, but if they don't understand the essence of the person and the end result we're trying to achieve, then they might not be a right fit from a speed or efficiency perspective or an output perspective. So it's that it's almost translator and mediator.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because, you know, I think it can be, for a practitioner, it can get a little bit nervous that, okay, I've got to learn how to do all these exact things. And it's not so much, you're not turning into a active campaign expert or a MailChimp expert, it's more knowing where you can get your hands on people if you have to, and you're just keeping the guardrails on and being able to help them just stay focused and not lose. I think some clients can kind of end up in shiny new objects, and, you know, you're trying to just hold the space for them so that they're not losing time, money, energy on things that won't work, because then they go, oh, I had this good idea and, you know, go do this, and you're like, let's come back to the plan. Don't do that. So I think you've covered everything I wanted to ask you today, Sally. So if you had any other advice or anything for anyone who's thinking about becoming a E2I practitioner, is there anything else you would have advice for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Just do it, because you never know. Gold's going to come out of it. You never know what your gold will be. Your gold will be different to mine, yes. But out of that gold comes magic for you in your special way. So I would absolutely do it. I'd do it sooner rather than later. So don't wait. Take the opportunity, because it's all there for you, and it really, really does make a really big difference. So definitely give it a whirl.
Thank you, Sally. I know how busy you are and really appreciate you jumping on today. There's some people who even may be listening today who even need your help as an E2I practitioner. So if they want to get in touch with you, or if they want to follow you, where are they best to go?
Yep, best place is obviously LinkedIn. That's my little playground. Yes. So LinkedIn which is Sally A. Curtis.
Yes.
And then Facebook, it's I'm Sally A. Curtis. So I am Sally A. Curtis.
Yes.
Obviously, they can call me 0407 607 809 and find me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with people and just help them have that forward movement, keep those guardrails on and keep their focus on the racetrack.
I love that. Thank you, Sally. So for those who are listening, I'm going to put Sally's details in with the podcast, so you can jump on the website. You can go follow Sally. Make sure you follow her, because she's such a great advocate for people. And if you need someone in your corner who really cares and can be your eyes and ears when you're maybe a little bit lost with all this, or equally to go and keep you in your genius so you don't have to worry as much about it, but you know someone's got your back. Sally's the one that you'd want to connect with. So thank you again for jumping on today, Sally. You've kept you a little bit over time, and really appreciate you jumping on.
You're more than welcome. Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you.